Yeah.
Hello. Thank you for joining us tonight. Sorry we are running a little bit late. We had some really awkward technical difficulties. Webinar Jam is always lots of fun. So I really appreciate your patience. And of course, we'll be sending you the replay of the recording. Anyways, my name is Anna Doxey. I'm the founder and director of the Institute of Holistic Phyto-Aromatherapy. I'm glad you can join us this evening for the webinar tonight. And, you know, the webinar being about emotions and making effective therapeutic blends, it's really something that's very valuable, something that we can all really apply in our life, because life is so, fast-paced. Everyone has mounting pressures and demands to produce various results, whether it's at work or it's in business or just in life in general. And so these demands cause us to experience, obviously, greater stress. And in turn, this stress affects our health because it affects our body's ability to stay balanced or to achieve homeostasis. And that in turn affects our hormones, all related to affecting our health and management of stress. So the management of our emotions, which cause stress, and the quality of our relationships with people, they all affect our life. So having a tool to help support us in a time of need when we need to manage our emotions, it's really imperative, because it is a direct correlation to the quality of our long-term health and the quality of our overall lifestyle. So in regards to mental health and looking at some of the issues that exist today, let's take a look at depression. WHO, the World Health Organization, reports that over 350 million people worldwide suffer from depression. That is 5% of the world's population. And 16 million US adults have had at least one major depressive episode. So it really is some astounding numbers. Women are particularly at risk. Women are more likely to be diagnosed with depression than men. And sadly, some of those that are suffering are as young as 8 to the ages of 18 years old. About 20% of people with major depressive disorder develop psychotic symptoms, and we hear about them on the news every day. Sorry about that, someone's calling. So I'm sure most of us could say that, this is something that we may have experienced at one time or another, or maybe not depression, maybe anxiety. That's another large problem that we have here in the US. And because it's so common, let's take a little bit closer look at it. So in regards to anxiety, according to the ADA, which is the Anxiety Depression Association of America, anxiety disorders are the most common mental illness in the US, affecting 40 million adults in the United States. So much higher than depression. Of course, many people don't even realize they're suffering from anxiety. They probably think that this is a normal feeling and something that they have to just deal with. And what's interesting is that anxiety disorders are very treatable, but only a third of those suffering from anxiety actually seek help. So those who suffer from anxiety are 5 times more likely to go to a doctor and 6 times more likely to be hospitalized for psychiatric disorders. And the list goes on. So we have people that suffer from PTSD and other traumas, or what about something that's a little more basic, like insomnia? And I say just insomnia, but have you ever had insomnia for an extended period of time and noticed how it affects your stress levels and your emotions and your long-term health? It's life-changing and not in a positive way. Again, affecting our overall quality of life. So most people need some kind of psychological and emotional support at one time or another. And I find that most people sincerely do want to help other people. However, they just don't know how. So that's why we're going to discuss this tonight. There's definitely value in learning more about how to support the psyche and emotions. And people today want to avoid medication at all costs. They're seeking natural remedies with little to no side effects. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's get right into talking about the olfactory system. And we know really quite little about the olfactory system. It's the most complicated body system that we have. Most anatomy and physiology programs skip the olfactory system altogether. And we know that we know the least about the olfactory system than any of our other body systems. The little bit that we do know, however, is that it works closely, the olfactory system works closely with the limbic system. And so I'm going to see, Bree, are the slides big enough? I just want to make sure everyone can see them because they're really tiny for me. So I want to make sure they're big enough for everybody.
I don't see the slide. So you have to, so press the start button for the slide and then it should be able to show full.
Oh, there we go. All right.
The pretty stuff.
Yeah, there. Now it's large enough. You guys could probably see that. Okay. Thank you for helping me with that glitch. Okay. So what we do know about the olfactory system is that it works very closely with the limbic system. And the limbic system is actually where our thoughts, feelings, emotions, and motivations are stored. And this is why when we smell a familiar aroma, it can actually stir up memories, and you know, it can motivate you, it can energize you, it can uplift you, and that is because of the partnership between the olfactory system and the limbic system. Another basic fact that we do know about the olfactory system is that our olfactory sense is actually processed through 5 different parts of our brain. And it is the only one of our senses that is processed through 5 parts of our brain. All other senses are only processed through 1 part of our brain. So let's talk about how our body communicates. Oops, there we go. So our body communicates in 2 different ways. It has a chemical system, which is through the endocrine system, and then electrically, which is through the nervous system. And so there's neurotransmitters, and they're chemicals that basically send messages and signals throughout our body. So we have chemical ones and we have electrical ones. For example, smell is a chemical sense. And so the olfactory, the sensory neurons are located inside of our nose. There are odor receptors inside of our nose. And then these odor receptors are stimulated by the microscopic molecules from the environment, what we're breathing in. And in this case, we're going to be talking about essential oils. So we're going to be talking about breathing in essential oil molecules and how they interact with the various neurotransmitters to bring different messages to our brain, and how they can actually affect different hormone levels and neurotransmitter levels and things like that. So we're breathing these in, these aromatic molecules, these essential oils, and essential oils have the ability to interact chemically with our brain and within our bodies. And this is why when we inhale certain aromas, it can give us a calming effect or a stimulating effect. It is actually inducing change within our brain. So again, the olfactory cortex, which is obviously located in our brain, it's connected to the amygdala. And the amygdala is, again, part of that limbic system where all of our emotional responses and our memories are stored. And again, that's how it's going to bring up emotions and memories and so forth. So let's take a closer look at some of these neurotransmitters. So we're going to look at 4 different neurotransmitters. We're going to look at serotonin, which helps to regulate mood. It's the feel-good hormone or neurotransmitter. It helps to regulate appetite, sleep, memory, sexual function. Very important neurotransmitter. Then we have dopamine, which helps to control movement, cognitive function, pleasure, and reward. And then we have my favorite one to pronounce, norepinephrine. Important for emotion, control, sleeping, dreaming, and learning. Then we have GABA, which is the inhibitory neurotransmitter, and it's important for motor control, vision, relaxation, muscles, and the brain. So let's talk about how these affect us, because there's various studies that talk about each of these neurotransmitters and shows how essential oils actually interact with these neurotransmitters electrically and chemically, and then they are able to change the chemistry in our brain to produce certain effects. So let's do a neurotransmitter study. Oh, one might be missing. So let's go talking about anxiousness specifically. So we know with anxiety that over 40 million people in the United States suffer from it. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with the hormone cortisol. That's our stress hormone. And when we have too much cortisol, it actually breaks down one of our neurotransmitters that we just talked about, GABA, which is the inhibitory or calming neurotransmitter. So when the cortisol goes up, the GABA goes down. Now, simultaneously, as the GABA is going down, it causes a firing of glutamic acid. The glutamic acid is the excitatory or the stimulating neurotransmitter. So it's going to contribute to you feeling anxious, especially if the cortisol has broken down the GABA neurotransmitters. So keeping anxiousness in mind and what we do know about essential oils and how we know that some of them have capabilities to modulate effects of cortisol, which means they have the ability to increase GABA, the calming neurotransmitter in our body, by interacting with these certain essential oil constituents that we inhale through our olfactory system and interact. So the GABA can interact with limonene, it can interact with linalool, and it can interact with linalool acetate and produce certain effects on our body and our brain chemistry, which then in turn have an effect on how we feel. And these particular ones, actually, let me do the next slide. I think it will talk about it. So GABA, which by the way is gamma aminobutyric acid, but we're just going to keep referring to it as GABA. When it interacts with these certain essential oils that you see here on the slide, it gives us a sense of calm. So there we have lavender and clary sage. So lavender and clary sage are high in linalool, and so the GABA is interacting with linalool, giving a sense of calm or even sedation, depending on how much you were using in a particular blend. Or okay, and then we have obviously the limonene, which is more uplifting, which we get in our citruses, which is why citruses are always so popular. And then we also have the linalool acetate that we find in oils like geranium and rose and other ester-rich oils. So when you have the calming or the modulating or harmonizing effect or the uplifting effect, the combination of these give us an overall sense of feeling grounded. So specifically, if we take a look at limonene, and we see how it interacts with GABA, we have this study that shows that it increased significantly while the glutamic acid concentration decreased. So after just 1 week administration of limonene, the GABA increased and the glutamic acid decreased. So it shows that limonene does exhibit anti-stress effects through the GABA receptors. So let's take a look at clary sage and dopamine. Among all the essential oils that were tested in this particular study, clary sage showed very strong anti-stress effect. So for patients that suffered from depression, and they were looking for that antidepressant type effect, clary sage was the most successful, showing that it had the ability to modulate the dopamine pathway. So again, we're seeing the interaction of the essential oils with the neurotransmitters producing certain effects on our brain. And it's producing these amazing effects without any negative side effects, which is one reason why essential oils are so popular today, because it gives us this wonderful effect without having the negative side effects that you get in many of the synthetic medications that we have on the market today. So let's go to the next slide, talking about dopamine and showing how it's very calming, showing some of the oils again. Also harmonizing and the ones that are uplifting. Are you starting to see a theme here of oils that are modulating to our neurotransmitters, giving us a sense of balance, a sense of homeostasis, and a sense of calm? I see a lot of the same oils over and over. So let's take a look at how lavender did with serotonin. It significantly decreased anxiety and cortisol levels. And so it has the ability to decrease cortisol and increase serotonin. So who doesn't want to decrease cortisol and increase serotonin? That's going to lead to weight loss. It's going to lead to happier mood. It's going to lead to a more even appetite. We're going to sleep better. We're going to have better sexual function. So being able to modulate or to regulate the serotonin is very important to our overall quality of life. So we have some examples of that again. One or two, few more new oils, but again, there's a common theme of ones that are high in certain chemical constituents that have a tendency to interact with these neurotransmitters, producing these wanted effects that we have. Taking a look at lemon and norepinephrine, there were very significant differences in concentration of norepinephrine and dopamine and serotonin in the prefrontal cortex. So lemon has the ability to lend an antidepressant effect, modulating or balancing or bringing homeostasis to the levels of norepinephrine, dopamine, and serotonin. All these studies very interesting. Again, a little bit smaller group, but the ability to produce a calming, soothing, refreshing, energized, and uplifting effect on our bodies. So let's talk a little bit about using essential oils to support emotions. So we're going to talk a little bit about essential oil energetics. And what that is basically talking about is how we can use essential oils to affect the psyche or our thinking or our memory. We all want a better memory, or emotions. So we've talked about this before, when you inhale certain aromas, how they can make you feel different things, how they can bring up certain memories or remind you of things. And usually everyone is pretty much focused on therapeutics, what it can do for us, like getting rid of a flu or getting rid of a virus or something, or of that sort of effect. But if you're not familiar with how to blend effectively for supporting someone's emotions, you're really missing out on 50% of what an essential oil is capable of accomplishing. So you're really leaving the person you're blending for hanging, because they're capable of so much more. And with the facts that we talked about early on, we see that, we all experience anxiety at one time or another, as well as, various traumas and things. And so it's something that we can all use. So we're going to talk really briefly about blending by plant part. So we talked about how most people, you always hear about people talking about the therapeutic action and how it can help make us well physically. But then we have this emotional, energetic, or psyche support that you don't hear spoken of as much. And you may want to do an emotional type of a blend when someone is suffering from mental and emotional challenges. It could be a variety of things, but maybe they're lacking confidence. Maybe they have a large decision to make. Maybe they have to change jobs or sell a home, or maybe they need to get out of an unhappy relationship. And they need to be able to think clearly. Maybe they're overly tired or stressed or overwhelmed, or facing physical and mental fatigue. I think everybody could pretty much, relate to something on that slide. And so essential oils could definitely lend an assistance in helping resolve these issues. So we're going to give one example, and we're going to talk about roots. And there's a few roots in, essential oil. We have vetiver, we have ginger root, we have valerian. Got to be careful with that one. And then we have its cousin, spikenard. And each plant part that's distilled, it really does create a different feeling when you inhale that aroma. So if we think about roots, so maybe vetiver or valerian, again, or ginger or spikenard, and using that in our blending. And we think about roots in the plant itself, and what their function is in the plant and what their capabilities are. We know that roots are there to absorb nutrients. They're there to ground and secure the plant and to feed the plant. And so roots will lend someone who needs emotional support stability. If you've gone through something traumatic, you're not feeling stable, you're not thinking clearly, you're not able to make decisions, you're not feeling supported, you're very confused and disoriented. These are the things that roots help correct. They help support and help bring us back into balance or homeostasis when we're out of whack in these areas. And so plants, or roots in particular, are responsible for, bringing in nutrients to the plant. So it helps us to feel nurtured, it helps us to feel supported, and it helps us to feel cared for. Now, I will tell you, you might think that sounds really crazy, but once you experience it and for yourself, and once you have blended for someone else who has gone through or is going through something traumatic, especially if it's a male, because, sometimes they're a little bit more resistant to trying natural remedies, depending on who they are, and to see how it quickly can affect their psyche, and to see how it affects your psyche, if that is what you need at a particular time, is absolutely amazing and empowering and very rewarding to be able to have the tools to blend appropriately. Sure, it feels good to help someone get over the flu, but it feels even better to have the ability to help someone who's gone through something traumatic or stressful, to get through that situation and to be able to lend support in that way as well. So that's just one example of some of the things that roots will lend to us emotionally when blending with them. There are many other plant parts. We have fruits, flowers, leaves, twigs, needles, seeds, balsams, resins. So woods, we have rhizomes. So some of those aren't really plant parts, but you made the slide look really pretty. But there's many different plant parts, and the different plant parts that are distilled, maybe you thought they were leaves, twigs, and branches. The part that's distilled lends its own emotional benefit. And so that's something that we talk about in a professional program, is not just all the things that go with the therapeutics, but all of the things that go with the plant parts that are distilled that lend to our psyche emotionally. So let's talk momentarily about therapeutics. Why is the chemistry of essential oils so important? The chemistry is important. So when we're looking at emotional support, we're looking at plant parts. But when we're looking at therapeutics, we're looking at chemistry to see what type of a therapeutic action that it's going to produce. So there's really two completely different sides here to helping people be well physically and helping them to be well emotionally. And so we have chemical groups or chemical families that are highly represented within many of the essential oils that we use. And we learn about each of the families intimately, and we learn about how they produce specific therapeutic actions and how to blend with them most effectively. We talk about how to create an aromatically balanced blend, which is important, giving the blend longevity, as well as many other blending tips. Last night in class, the pharmacist told me that this was tougher than pharmacy school. And I had a doctor graduate recently, and she said, when's the next class? I'm ready to have my booty kicked again, and I want to do the next, course, and I want to learn more, and a lot of different people, I guess it just is stretching their brain in a different way that it's never been stretched before. So we also talk about dilution. We know dilution is very, very important because if you are not using the proper dilution, it can produce certain reactions. And some of the reactions are really obvious because they're external, but some of the reactions are systemic. And sometimes you don't know that you're having a problem until it's too late and it's causing damage. And sometimes it's reversible and sometimes it's not reversible. So knowing the different nuances, who to use what dilution for and for how long you should be using that dilution, and all of the dynamics that are surrounding the topic of proper, safe dilution is something that really can't be ignored. Then, so backing back up to emotional blends, when you're blending emotional, it has to be very, very subtle. For example, you might blend 1%, maybe a maximum of 2%, but if you're a novice blender without any training, you might blend 2 to 3% for something therapeutic. If you're more advanced and trained, you might go up to 5% for something therapeutic, but subtle is what you're looking for emotional blending, 1 to 2%. So learning, the nuances between therapeutic blending and emotional blending, they're not anything alike, and they all have different things that need to be considered in order to know how to dilute them properly. You really have to consider the person as an individual. And so this is some of the value that we offer in our certification program. And if you are enrolling in the Institute, it's an amazing program. It is a live streaming. We also have in-person twice a year. We have live streaming twice a year. We have our live streaming coming up in this June. That's usually a very large class and fills quickly. So if that's something you're even thinking about, I would consider leaving your $199 deposit and reserving your spot in class, because this isn't a mock. This isn't a mass certification program. This is a small classroom size where you're getting not one-on-one help, but it's like working one-on-one with a personal coach walking you through the program. You have an exclusive video learning library. Our very active student group is instructor-led. It's not the blind leading the blind. You're not left in there alone, answering each other's questions. There's lots of support in between classes in the student group. And we have an amazing advisory board, which I will show you as well. We have some MDs, we have some cosmetic chemists, we have a licensed care social worker who's actually in the process of graduating with her PhD next summer. So we're able to offer you not only the expertise that I have, but the wonderful expertise from our distinguished lecturers and our advisory board. So we will get into quite a bit about blending emotionally with each of the different plant parts and learning how to take an appropriate emotional intake, as well as increasing your income with emotional intakes. And the reason I say that specifically is just because I know many of you on the line are actually psychologists and licensed care social workers and of the like, and you want to add that tool to your practice so that you can offer something a little bit more gentle and more natural without side effects before you would recommend something synthetic. And essential oils not only work well singularly, but they work well in conjunction with allopathic medicine. So it doesn't have to be one or the other. They work wonderfully together. So back to the therapeutic side, we talk a lot about the chemical families, and we get to know them intimately. We talk a little bit about their children that the chemical families have and the different strengths and weaknesses of each of the kids and how they contribute to really customizing and creating an effective and powerful synergy. There's so many things that you can do with your certification. It really is just limited to your own personal imagination and your own personal passion. A lot of people don't know what they want to do when they get started in a certification program, but somewhere throughout the journey, a light bulb comes on. They find a portion of the industry that they really connect with. And once that light bulb goes off, there's really no stopping you. So it's just a matter of starting your journey and finding out where you connect, and where you can also connect your passion. A lot of people have professional practices. They add these new skills to existing practices like spa owners and estheticians, massage therapists, acupuncturists. We have a lot of nurses, doctors, and now some pharmacists coming through the program. So it depends. And it can also be not just for the professionals. It could be for someone that's an essential oil enthusiast. Maybe they just want to help their family. Maybe they just want to help their friends. They just want to have a better lifestyle and have more control of their health and the health of their children. I know that was an original motivator for me, being that I am a mom to 6 kids and now, a grandma. I really, like, it's important to keep them healthy. I don't have the time or patience to go to the doctor. So I try and keep that, as minimal as possible. Some people like to create a retail product or line, and because we have cosmetic chemists on our staff, we can help you from beginning to launch with an appropriately formulated product that would be ready to be introduced to the market. And so we're very happy to be able to not only help you identify your passion, if that's something that's important to you, but to be able to support you through the entire process of actually launching that passion with your own name and your own brand. And so we have several students that are doing that as well. And they're doing a beautiful job at it. So again, we have our live streaming program that takes place on Wednesday evenings that are starting in June. And all of the classes are recorded. So if you're not able to make it in a particular Wednesday, it's really not a crime. You just watch the video library, and then you can go into the student group. And if you have questions in between class, we're there to help. What you learn is it's really, and how the course works is it's very comprehensive. The coursework, how that works, it's very simple. You basically attend the class, do the homework, pass your tests, turn in your blends, turn in your research paper, and participate fully in the student forum. And once you turn in these required items, you then qualify to be certified. We have absolutely stunning materials for you. We want your journey to be enjoyable. We want it to be beautiful. And so we've provided beautiful materials for you that are comprehensive for you to learn from, and a beautiful certificate that you'd be proud to display in your office when you launch your business, if that's what you so choose. When you look at what our program offers, you'll see that it is very comprehensive. I hear a lot of comments that many people feel it's the most comprehensive program that they've seen. And I'm gonna have to tend to agree with them, not because of my personal opinion, but just because what I keep hearing from my students that have already had very high levels of education, and how they feel going through the program, and how they feel that they are really getting their value worth for what they paid for the program. And that makes me very happy. So we do get into the chemistry, we get into ethics, we get into developing a business, we get into sourcing, and you do have a research project that you turn in. And I like it to be a very practical research project where you choose the topic, but it's something that you're very passionate about, maybe something that's going to be related to something you might do in the future, so that you could use it on your website, or you can use it as a blog, or you can use it, possibly as a magazine article to be published in the future. Always looking long-term and practical for the work that we do in the class. There's no busy work. It's all practical work that you're going to be able to use every day in your business. We do lots of formulating. Even in the live class, I do live blending for you in my kitchen. And for those of you that attend in person, you actually get to learn hands-on how to emulsify and control your bases. And so that's something that's very exciting. It will save you a lot of money in the long term, and it will allow you to make a very therapeutic, customized base. And then you can offer that for other companies. Like I was blending massage butters for a spa last week. And so you're able to do a lot of fun custom projects like that for different companies if you know how to control your bases, if you know how to emulsify and things like that. So it just kind of broadens what you're able to do. We love to give lots of business support. We're not here to just pass along information. If you have the desire to create an income, we want to support you and help you with the tools so that you're able to do that when you complete your certification. Again, here is our advisory board. If you saw the CVs of these members, some of they're not even like real people. It's like, can you just say overachievers? And they're just amazing, helpful people with a wealth of knowledge, and they like to share their knowledge. They don't feel like it's there to be hoarded, and they're going to tell you if they have a neat technique, they're going to tell you what that neat technique is. They're not going to withhold that from you. And that's what I love about it. So I shared this a few days ago or so on Instagram. Beware of false knowledge. It is more dangerous than ignorance. We all know, for anyone that's been interested in the essential oil industry, who's been dabbling in it, even just buying oils or on social media or in different Facebook groups, there's so much false knowledge out there, and it really is dangerous. And so you get what you pay for. And if you want to have a profession, you need to choose a professional program. If it was just as simple as reading a book, then we would have so many more aromatherapists around the world. But, you need to have that support. You need to have immediate clarification. You need to have your work critiqued. You need to see how you can make yourself better. And for those who want to create an income, it's really difficult to create an income if you don't have a solid foundation or a solid amount of knowledge on a topic. And with something as complicated as essential oils, you're really not going to get very far. You can do it, but it's going to take you longer. It's going to cost you more money, and you're going to have a much bigger headache along the way. So if you would like a smooth journey, the best thing to do is to invest in a solid education, and also to establish yourself as a credible person right out of the gates and to get certified. So I want to thank you for joining us. If you have any questions that we weren't able to answer this evening or need any clarifications, please feel free to contact me at the info address. I apologize again for getting started a little bit late, so I wanted to kind of move through the information quickly. I know everyone's time is valuable, and we appreciate you spending it here with us this evening. So I look forward to seeing many of you in the summertime for our next program. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. We'll be more than happy to help. We hope you have a wonderful evening.